welcome back to the Elemental I Ching. And today we're contemplating GK60, hexagram 60, limitation, as the shadow and as the original hexagram name. It's the water running over the lake or running into the lake. And it's the gift of realism, of magical realism, the common sense of reality, not as a constriction, but actually using structures as a way to move beyond structures, using the healthy balance of structure and freedom, of coherency, and the rebellious nature of the wandering partners of creativity. Into the city, the enlightened state of justice. And contemplating what is real justice is a powerful question, a powerful inquiry, and something that goes beyond what my mind and my socio-economic understanding of justice can be, and actually asks my cells, my soul, to remember a justice beyond the duality of the mind. Justice not as a punishment or a retribution, but as an invitation into grace, as Richard says in his audio. So looking at this hexagram, it's the water over the lake. It's both these water elements, and it's also water and metal, the grief of the lungs, that lake. And it's in the shadow of limitation. It's being half-hearted with our dissatisfaction. What is the, I drink tea every morning. It's an important part of my life and my practice. But if the teacup is not in integrity, if the structures aren't there, if the limitation isn't held, it just leaks all over my tea table, and I can't actually enjoy the beautiful nectar of these teas. And even the teapots themselves, right? Like every teapot, the different shape, the different material, the different essence that brought this being together, all of those limiting factors are actually what creates the magic. And and different teas work better in different pots, and like the minerals and the way that this cooks pu'er is just phenomenal to me. Or that this Oregon clay, teapot, its limitations is it doesn't brew the pu'er the way that I necessarily would want to, but the way that it lets these oolongs swim in this open, bigger belly, and the way that I can have the minerals from my own land here in Oregon in this wood-fired, beautiful clay pot. And so every limitation is an opportunity for growth, for adaptation. It's the way nature actually uses the forces of limitation, the force of a growth and abundance and change and evolution that's tempered with these energies of gravity, of deepening, of limiting, of how prolific something can spread. It's plant or an animal, an insect that spreads. So limitation is a healthy boundary that gives the opportunity for those roaring rapids of love, of commitment, of devotion, to actually have a container, that joyous lake, to build the banks of the river so that the river can flow in its crazy, magical, alchemical truth. But it's held within a healthy structure. And that structure, change is the one thing that's eternal, right? As our father of Taoism over here is known to proliferate on. Change is built into the science of reality, into the very foundation of reality. So enduring structures are naturally adapting and evolving and changing with life. That's what a realistic business person, what a realistic, warrior of truth, what a realistic lover of life recognizes, is that structure is important, and that structure has to be in listening to the feedback. The dynamic tension of equilibrium is always listening to reality to create the next structure. And it may be grafted and growing upon the old structures. And sometimes, it's the dissolution of those old structures and the claiming of something new, an entirely new world. But structures themselves aren't inherently bad. So when we have this half-hearted decision of like, oh, I want to have the reality of roads and fire departments and education systems, but I don't want to pay taxes. It's like there are these two sides of that half-hearted equation of what we're actually committing to. What are we choosing in our life? It's not the point of this video to talk about taxes, but I think it's important that we look at the bureaucracies of economy, of politics, of healthcare, of education, of environment, of self and community relationships, of your neighbors, because all of these things are all these interactions with life, that life is showing you some feedback. And if something is out of balance, then a new limitation, a new structure can be put in place to create a new healthy harmonic balance. Even just recently, I've been really praying in my own way to help my neighbor not cut down trees on our land and in our old beautiful area, while also respecting his property lines and our property lines, and needing to discover healthy boundaries. Even if there's not the level of coherence that I experience in my immediate community, right? We're always interacting with the other parts of the world. At some point we rub our edges against something, and healthy boundaries, healthy containers help the alchemy to grow. So I can't be half-hearted about those limitations. I have to commit and let vitality, life force vitality, breathe itself into those containers, right? And so that's the gift of realism, commitment and vitality, the water and the lake, communicating my elation. Here is my yes. I will fill my container with my big yes. And so in my recent example, while the sun has been traveling through this key, and I've been negotiating with the neighbors, and one of them was communicating my yes about the environment and about legality and about our property. Instead of it being this controlling mechanism, it's filling your temple. If you inhabit your temple, your body, your home fully, so nothing else may grow there. Right? Cobwebs and parasites and rats and termites and these like expressions that can actually happen to your house or your body, but also just expressions of those errant thought forms that we haven't fully filled this cauldron with the commitment of our life vitality and of life's life force vitality, the natural joy of life. Fill it completely. Fill it to the brim, right? And it's important, energetic for me to keep maintaining a conscious lucid awareness to fill myself to the brim, so that I don't let those unconscious patterns start to take root and then create habitual, addictive responses to life. Because when ritual becomes habitual, it's lost its meaning and it begins to create a negative biofeedback loop. So, I'm always having to reclaim my own rituals and habits and feeding my altars, feeding my neighbor, the relationship with my neighbor. I hadn't been thinking about that. You need to naturally nourish your immediate surroundings, that local consciousness that will help the larger consciousness grow and change. We have to make our choices as a consumer, as a voter, as just a living being walking around and being an example of our love. And I bring up some of these magical things like altars and intention and setting your container and your space of a group that you're working with, or the music that you're about to create. Before I do my web design, I try to always remember to light my incense and offer I have a Michelangelo prayer of the work is already complete. I just have the honor and joy of seeing it unfold. And just being in that natural process of committing to each whatever moment we're creating, and make the fertile field of possibility for those miracles of creativity to emerge, or in a conflict resolution, creating a fertile bed where breakthroughs can occur. That's what the power of container of the 60th gene key of justice and of realism is, the power to create containers and fields of vibration where grace can more easily erupt from the center of that moment. So one of my magician teachers and friends and allies said to me, in magic and creating a magical container, he was a Kabbalistic, I think he was a deacon, and he was talking about why setting the directions and setting these elemental boundaries and everything. He said there's the rumpty-dump and the poof and magic. And the rumpty-dump is setting up all these containers. It's this red tape of the magical or mundane world, which is a magical world. You set up these containers, you set up these possibility, a a realm of possibility. And the more energy that you put into a healthy container, the more energy you put into all that rumpty-dump and do all that cultivation work and all that prayer and all that preparation of the tiniest detail to make sure everything is in its right place, then the poof can be that much more magical, that much more exciting, that much more brilliant, that much more impactful and lasting in its magical impact, right? So alchemy requires that cauldron so we can burn and melt away all that does not serve to become the living gold of who we are. And just like in a business, you can't, most businesses that are like entrepreneurial or startups and things like that, it's not like they're going to make all their millions in that first year, unless, well, hallelujah if you did. But even overnight successes, I love the phrase, it took 10 years to be an overnight success. It took me 30 years to be an overnight success. Because there are moments of poof. There are moments when the universe just floods you with all of this energy sometimes. But it took all that work, all that limitation, all that cultivation of a container for the moment of that quantum leap of abundance or of whatever it is that the magical spell was there to do. Which is why I'm looking into tax laws and into understanding structures of financial growth, of legal growth, of being in right relation with the system, even as it's changing, and adapting with the changing systems, so that Wonderland 1 can live beyond my lifetime. It can serve generations to come, and it can grow in a correct fractal way based on its natural gift to the world. And so I really honor that limiting, constricting part of life force. The contraction of the heart is so important to pump all the blood. We can't always just be expanding, right? There's that counterbalance force of nature, that gravity that keeps us on the earth, the integration and the Saturnian influence of life. That yes, we expand, we learn, we grow, we create new tools, we express, we excite, and then also we integrate and strengthen the container of ourselves, of our community, of our projects, of this planet. This is a Gaia code. And that's where it brings us to justice, the devotion to bliss, the devotional bliss, devotional bliss. I really appreciate it in the audio of GK60 because it is a hard key to fully digest for me. It's been working me for years and I don't fully understand this key. But I re-listened to the audio this morning and I really appreciated Richard's reflection of, one, that it takes time for this key, it's a dense code, but also that justice is not a punishment or a retribution, it's an invitation to grace. Forgiveness is such a powerful, infinitely powerful tool of the universe. To be for the sins of humanity, which sin just means we missed the mark, for those to be forgiven. What a powerful contemplation in my cells. Even as borders and boundaries get crossed that don't feel in right relation, at the same time, some larger, life is a much greater teacher than I will ever be. The nature is my teacher. That's why I'm doing these elemental I Ching. Nature and life and the natural energetic balance and the natural geometry that is the pattern of life creating itself is my teacher. And that's where justice really lives. And it's not about these impermanent forms of what I think justice should look like, or I think realism, or I think realistically this is what life should look like or be. It's grander than that. It's more mysterious than that. And justice, this key, is just helping me dissolve fake and impure containers that I take refuge in, the impermanent thoughts and sensations. It's just the river flowing. I am not that pain. I'm just experiencing pain. And just letting that river flow, and then this lake beneath the water gets to grow in its natural vitality. It's filled. All that energy and motion, that emotion just gets felt and keeps its bubbling cauldron going, and then we're filled to the brim with existence, with vitality, with just being. Full spectrum, that's bliss. Full spectrum sensation being digested. Just desserts, right? Eat the sensation as the finest enriching dessert feed the cauldron of the belly, of the body, so that you're not victimized by these external sensations, but actually acknowledging that this is the perfect limitation to teach me a better way to grow, to play, to love, to inspire, to express. So thank you so much for journeying with me in this key, and I'm going to take a leap and end with a little flute prayer from this beautiful, from Root Flutes. Daniel, me and Carrie Ann have matching, beautiful, matching elk triple chamber flutes. And I'll just end with a little bit of a musical prayer. So thank you. Many blessings.